one of the attorneys was like, hey, Jessica, how's it going in Bullock? I was like, let me tell you what Daphne Totten and Barkley Black did. Let me tell you.
The Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast.
Welcome to episode 207. This week, we have our last Ashlyn Griffin update for a while. Running drugs in prison. Guns, Jesus, and babies. And of course, last week in the Georgia legislature. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, writer, journalist, dog mom, owner of the GeorgiaVirtue.com, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hey, Dave. What's happening?
Busy week last week. How was yours?
It was okay. Was yours busy because the weather teetered back to 200 degrees?
It was like 90 degrees. I left the house with a jacket and I was like, what the hell am I doing with this thing?
I absolutely despise when the weather is like that because in February, because I'm too pale to be handling this right now.
You're too pale to be handling this?
Yeah, I look like porcelain, and you know, it was 86 in South Georgia on Wednesday.
And you don't have time to go lay out.
Well, no, and the sun's not close enough to the earth to do that anyway.
Well, that may be true.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get a suntan or sunburn skiing.
Sure, but I don't because I don't ski in the snow.
Yeah, something about a fat man falling down a hill at high speeds is not a great thing. I've been once. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, kind of a-hole friends I have. I was flying to go meet him. He was going to pick me up there at Denver International Airport. So I called him and said, "Hey man, I'm going to make the flight. Everything's on time." This is before you could text and flight and all that stuff. He goes, "By the way, I got Lyft tickets." I said, "Really? Who's Lyft?" It's like, "No man, you've been skiing before. I'm from Florida. I've been water skiing." He took me to the top of Breckenridge in a pair of blue jeans and a leather jacket.
Nice.
Oh, I was miserable. It's the last time
Nice.
I've been on skis.
But you did do water sports?
When I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Kneeboard.
I prefer the...
I wasn't a prolific skier, but I call it drowning at high speed. My uncle used to be able to step off a dock and barefoot ski. He would just watch the rope go as the boat was going and just step off the dock and ski. Mm-hmm. In jean shorts, naturally. We're all Floridians.
Well, congrats to him.
The Florida Chronicles.
Good Lord.
So we have the Ashlyn Griffin update from the sentencing hearing.
Yes, so obviously the story we talked about at length last week. On Monday, she was sentenced. There was I think it was like 2.5 hour long hearing because obviously, well, maybe it wasn't quite that long, but the state obviously presented and they allowed the family of Brandon McRae, her abuser, the deceased, to speak and talk about their desires of sentencing. And then, of course, the defense gets to make an argument and present witnesses as well. And so Barkley, the mule of the week for the last couple weeks, but the one from last week, Barkley Black, the ADA, she was facing a maximum of 25 years, and he asked for 15 years to serve, which would leave 10 on probation, which is just, it just solidifies what a awful human he's willing to showcase that he is to the world because, I'm not going to rehash the facts of the case, but 15 years to serve in prison, her children would be adults when she got out. Obviously, the state wasn't going to budge at all. His mother, one of his sisters, his second grade teacher, and his second cousin spoke, which, I guess they brought in the teacher because that was the last time that, well, I don't know. They brought in the teacher, and they were relentless. And one of his sisters, not the one that perjured herself on the stand, but a different one, said that, yeah, he like beat her up and stuff, but he didn't put her in ICU or anything. So that was interesting to listen to. And then
I didn't know that was the bar.
Yeah, well, they were trying to make the case that she wasn't justified in shooting him, obviously, and then that he didn't deserve to die either. But yeah, that's like a sick thing. That's just a sick thing to say. And there's a little bit more on that. But then her attorney obviously argued for all probation because she has a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Her mother testified. Her dad testified. And her lifelong friend, who's an attorney, testified. And her mother's, they were basically pleading for mercy. It was, I don't want to say pathetic because I don't think that it was just gut wrenching. Pathetic's not the right word, but it was awful. And then Judge Pede sentenced her to 10 years to serve. And the rest on probation. So it basically 10 more years on probation, but because he gave her the max on the possession of a firearm charge, but it's probated, so it's 10 years to serve it, and then that'll be concurrent with the other probation, which was a max of 20 years on top of that. So they took her into custody. And she will be, I'm assuming by the time the show drops, she will be in the custody of GDC. The defense asked for the motion on directed verdict to overrule the jury. Basically, he filed a motion for a new trial already, which we know the judge, because you have to ask the same judge for that, but we know he will deny it. But he's already moving that process along so that he can appeal to the Court of Appeals. And he cited a number of different things that the court allowed into evidence and didn't allow into evidence that either, respectively should have been or not have been. Basically, error from the bench. But it was honestly, like, obviously, this case is extremely personal to me because I followed it so much, and I just I don't know. I just cried and cried and cried on Monday thinking about her hugging her kids goodbye and then knowing that she might not come home for a very long time, and then spending the night in Bullitt County Jail while none of the people who did this to her even give a rip, and knowing that she won't be home for, on a good, if nothing goes her way, on a good chance, it's probably 7 years, 6-7 years.
Yeah, you can take somebody who defended herself and throw her into the meat grinder that is the criminal justice system and expect what you get back is going to be a productive member of society.
Well, and I feel like her faith, they're very faithful people. I feel like her faith is what got her to the point that she has and has let her, be the person that she is. It's just, her children don't have a parent. I mean, her family is loving and caring, and obviously they're going to do whatever they have to do, but they don't have, that 1-year-old doesn't have its mother. It just makes me sick. I can barely talk about it still. And everyone I know is just mortified by it. All the defense attorneys that have talked to, whether they're in the circuit or out of the circuit, I still can't find anybody other than his garbage family who posted on Facebook, finally justice has been, or the Lord at work, not justice has been done, but the Lord is working for us. And, he didn't have to die. And, they were commenting on my stuff, which doesn't really bother me. I'll rip them up one side and down the other every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I'm just so disgusted. But they, one of his sisters was running her mouth about how, we shouldn't judge and you know, I just...
That's such a weak argument from a weak-minded person. Who are you to judge? Everybody says you...
I didn't have to judge. Your brother pled guilty to doing it.
Right.
No one had to judge him.
Well, that's true too, but you know what? It's those facts were not in dispute. Even when the sister took the stand and like, well, yeah, at least she didn't go to the ICU. Like, I'm going to use that defense if I ever have to pop somebody. It won't be anybody in here, I tell you that. But I'm like, well, he's not in the ICU. It's cool, right? We're cool. Jack. Anyway, again, it's a hard transition to get from Ashlyn Griffin. I hope the next update we get is that her appeal is being heard. And I know that's a slow process.
It's extremely slow, and that's the travesty of this. Is, I mean, her attorney asked for everything. He asked for her to be, remain out until they can appeal this and he said no. I mean, and we knew the judge would, but he asked for everything, and he asked multiple times, and he made all the right arguments, and the judge had the opportunity to be the hero, but he chose differently. So,
you're exactly right. And look, the stories as I've been sharing them, I get feedback from it, and everybody is appalled.
I'll spend I will use every opportunity I can for the next however long I am doing this and writing and covering courts, and I will tell everyone what they did. Every single person. I was in Tatnall, which we're about to talk about in a minute, but I was in Tatnall on Tuesday, and one of the attorneys was like, "Hey, Jessica, how's it going in Bullock?" I was like, "Let me tell you what Daphne Totten and Barkley Black did. Let me tell you." I mean, I'm not like everyone should know. It's a camp. That's going to be something that reads horribly on a campaign flyer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's not what it's about, but they should never be allowed to forget it. That's all.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, the DA had a decision to make. And the whole case could have just gone away. Say, look, it's clear self-defense, don't even take it to the grand jury, move on with your life. But they chose to pursue it as a murder case. And every one of those jurors should feel like crap too. And they should be made to watch the damn sentencing hearing. They should have to sit in that box.
They didn't know. They didn't know that it was going to be so long. They thought they were sending a message. They wanted her to know that she shouldn't have had a gun. They wanted to send her a message.
They should have to sit in that damn box and watch her be sentenced to see what you did.
No, it should be a crime to screw up being a juror that bad.
Just 12 of them who screwed it up. I'm sure. There was.
I didn't tell you this. Hold on. There's more. The 13th juror contacted me. The person that was sequestered. We had two alternates. Something happened to one of them. I don't know. I don't really care. He wasn't there for the whole trial. He wasn't there for deliberations. But the 13th juror sits through the trial, and then during, deliberations, the person's sequestered. So after the trial, after the verdict and everything, 13th juror reaches out to me and says, I guess she was there for part of the deliberations, and she was disgusted and she wrote a letter to the judge and said she felt like the jury lost track of what they were supposed to do, that she heard some of the conversations, and he published it as an exhibit. He didn't read it out loud, but it's available for review if people want to read it. And obviously I got it, but I already knew what she said because she contacted me and told me she'd contacted the judge. But she said that she was disgusted by it, and that there would have been nothing that could have convinced her to convict her. So had one juror been different, had the alternate been number 12 instead of number 13, it would have been a hung jury.
Yeah, it's I don't know what happens in a jury box or in a jury room to have it go that far bad, other than they got in there and started bargaining, and that's not what they're supposed to do. Did the state prove its case? We're rehashing what we talked about last week. I know. But speaking of Tatnall County, apparently running drugs in a prison won't cost you that much.
Yeah, so this is a story that I kind of stumbled on by accident. Like all the data and stuff that's included in it, I asked for on purpose, but where it ultimately went is surprising to me. So I obviously have been doing a lot of work on the prisons, and particularly in Tattnall County because they have 3, like we've talked about, Rogers, Georgia State, and Smith State Prison. And so I've just been covering like the absolute toll that these facilities are taking on the county and the taxpayers because they don't get reimbursed for anything. And, from everything from like medical and EMS to law enforcement responding to the premises or, surrounding the premises and life flights out and just everything. So I had filed an open records request on people who were booked into the Tattnall County Jail on offenses with a nexus to the Department of Corrections. So that would include employees and members of the public. It makes me laugh because the Department of Corrections refers to them as civilians, as if they're members of the military, but the military would never allow a facility to be run the way that our corrections facilities are. So it's ironic and hilarious to me. But anyway, so it would include, public and anyone who crossed a guard line, people who threw stuff over the fence, coordinated, got cell phones, drugs, tobacco, all of that. And so once I got them, which I did not have any problems getting them because the sheriff in Tattnall is plenty transparent when you ask for records. But I delineated between who was an employee and who was a citizen, and then I cross-referenced that with all the public records in the clerk of court's office. And then what caught my attention was that the first 3 on the list that I was going through were dismissed, like of the employees, because if you think about if you have a car full of people throw a couple bags of weed over the fence or land a drone or something or through a drone, you may have a difficulty in prosecution and proving all of those people did it. But when it's an employee, it's a little bit different because the person is either like caught bringing stuff in or it's on camera. Like there's so much more proof when it's employees because it's on, other than someone being framed. I just don't know how, So anyway, I did this 5-year period of arrests and, I broke it down by facility and everything. And what I found is that by and large, they either like leave the cases open and don't resolve them, or they dismiss them altogether, or if they are sentenced and because they entered a guilty plea, they drop the contraband charge and just sentence them on something else. And by and large, they're getting probation, which, there's a couple things here because we talk about justice reform and sentencing and no, some of these people are violent, but for the most part, these people aren't violent. So should they be behind bars? I'm not sure if that meets that standard, but the other standard is that they're violating their oath as this isn't like a surprise charge, right? Like they sign an employee handbook that says you can't do all these things, and then they are post certified. So they take a test acknowledging that they know all these things, and then they go to work there and they put on a badge and they do it anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what the allure is to doing that. I don't know if it's straight greed. If someone on the outside is paying them off to bring it in, or if it's they want to be buddies with whoever in there.
The argument is that the pay is so bad that it makes sense for them to have a little side gig, and I guess I understand that. I guess I understand the logic behind that, but we're talking in some of these, we're talking about like criminal enterprises, because this is just the arrests that are prosecuted through the state. The feds come in sometimes and do big stings for like multiple people and grander operations. But, you brought up the thing about if they're getting paid and whatnot. There was a guy who was a corrections officer, and he was arrested for furnishing prohibited items, hallucinogens and tobacco and cigarettes to a work detail. And so he got charged with furnishing and then violation of oath. And they left it on, it was happening in 2017, excuse me. And then they left it open for 18 months. And then he retired from the state agency after 25 years. So pension, healthcare, all that good jazz. And the DA dismissed it, saying that he just retired, so it was kind of moot, and that the DA determined that he was not furnishing those products for profit. I mean,
well, I don't remember that being part of the law.
It isn't if you're a citizen, because, and again, this is an article that's going to be forthcoming, but I mean, the citizens are sentenced to time in confinement. And of the 42 cases just from Tatnall County alone, I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you think about 42 state employees in a single county, no, they're not all from Tatnall, but they're all working in Tatnall. 42 employees in a 5-year period did something criminal. That's a lot. If that was a business, people would be like, I think you got a problem. But, of the 42, there were 3 that had a sentence that included confinement. One of them was it's called sexual assault, but it was because an inmate can't legally consent, but she didn't. A female had a encounter with a male inmate, but she was sentenced to 2 years behind bars. Another woman I guess she had a terrible lawyer, because she's the only one that had drugs that also went away, or maybe she had another charge, I'm not sure, but she got 2 years. And then the one that blows my mind is that there was a guy who pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, aggravated battery, and violation of oath by a public officer. So 3 charges. And he pled guilty. I read the letter from the inmate, the victim impact statement and stuff, and it was quite lengthy, because the guy did this to him, I think, while he was maybe not handcuffed, but detained in another capacity. And all he got was 8 weekends to serve in the county jail, and then he had to pay $250
to the inmate.
Victim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he got 10 years probation. That's kind of a big deal, because you don't always hear very many of them getting convicted or pleading guilty to assaulting an inmate, because we hear so many excuses. But 8 weekends, and that's 16 days
of weekends.
Yeah, when it's convenient for him.
Yeah, bye kids, I'll see you Monday morning. Yeah, 8 weekends. No, that's I don't know what the source of the corruption is on that. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they work together. Of course, they're not county employees. It's not like the DA is interacting with these prison guards. The prison guards are state employees. Right.
It makes no sense. I mean, and if they did plea, they got, just probation. It blows my mind that they're dropping the charge of the contraband, because that is the deterrent to keep them from serving in any type of corrections or anything like that again. And they send someone to a first offender. So once they're done with their probation, which they can terminate early because of all of our justice reform stuff, they get first offender, and then it goes away forever. And it's like it didn't happen. And I don't know. No, I don't think we should put them
a $12 an hour job, a horrible $12 an hour job, is not enough to keep somebody from making little extra money bringing in contraband. Because if that's the worst that's going to happen to you, you just
no. And then I have seen some of the names from the employees pop up afterwards as citizens who do it. I mean, so they obviously don't care, because they're not going to prison.
Right.
but and it's what's interesting, and I understand why they have to do this, but if you don't return your uniform and your stuff after you leave, they'll charge you with theft, because I guess they don't want someone to impersonate an officer. I guess I don't know why, but there's been several convicted. It's just bizarre. It's like this. It's like Disney World, but in the reverse, like the worst place on earth. But it's like its own society and rules and community, and everything's backwards. Like this one lady was arrested for furnishing items you're not allowed to bring in, for bringing in 2 Subway foot-long sandwiches and 2 bags of potato chips. I would have been like, yo, this is all for me.
Yeah, you've been a little smarter about that. Look, I know on the county level, guys are the guys that sometimes you have trustees that are doing a good job, and they'll bring them a McDonald's hamburger or something like that. Of all the things you're bringing in, a Subway foot long, I mean, didn't have a file in it or nothing. Come on.
No, but no worries. She just got probation and a $1,300 fine. So, I mean, there could have been more to it that they couldn't prove. Like, maybe she was, because it was a woman, maybe she had some sort of relationship going on that was inappropriate. I mean, she was obviously, or maybe it was like an EEOC thing, or like affirmative action where not everybody got a sub, so it wasn't right. Maybe she should have brought a tray for everyone.
Well, or yeah, she created a fight. Because somebody's over in the corner eating Subway, and everybody else is eating slop, and why you her favorite? Yeah, I mean, who knows? There could be more to the story on that. I understand that just kind of disappear when you plead out to a lower charge.
It's just not fun for me. I want a trial on smuggling sub.
You don't want a trial. You want Maury Povich.
I do because it's this extreme, and then the other extreme is like the guy who brought in a cooler full of stuff like marijuana, 18 cell phones, 4 phone hotspots, cigarettes, lighters, headphones, batteries, chargers, like in a cooler. So we got this one extreme of the lady bringing a sandwich to her loved one behind bars that she's connected with, and the other guy leaving a Yeti in a farm barn. I don't know.
How the hell do you think you're going to get away with that?
I don't know.
I mean, it's one thing if one cell phone falls out of your pocket. You're bringing a cooler full of items. I mean,
well, this one is still open and hasn't even been indicted yet. But there's another lady who got busted for bringing in like $29,000 worth of cash.
Really?
I'm very excited about where this is going. But anyway.
What the hell are you going to do with $30,000 in prison?
Well, apparently you can use it for the multi-million-dollar contraband rings we were running in there, because they're all running around in Air Jordans and buy off guards. Mm-hmm. This is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over at thegeorgiavirtue.com. Jessica, guns, Jesus, and babies. Hold on. You said that the opinions are not of anyone else not on the show, but I think the opinion of the mule that we continue to reference, I think that is the general consensus. Just want to land that plane one more time. Just go ahead and drive that home. Mm-hmm. So guns. But yes, guns, Jesus, and babies. Gubernatorial candidate Kandiss Taylor hits the road. Gosh, she is. So during the pandemic, when she was running for U.S. Senate, we're talking about Kandiss Taylor from Baxley, Dr. Kandiss Taylor. She ran for Senate, U.S. Senate, and I thought that, that was that crowded race, and there was, 21 candidates or something in the primary, because it was everybody. Yeah, it was a goat rodeo. Right. you know, I respect anyone who's willing to put themselves out there. I mean, I would never do it. Never. I wouldn't want to run for office, and I think it takes courage because people make fun of you. I don't think that she does herself any favors with some of the stuff she chooses to do. But I'll be darned if she doesn't believe every damn thing she says.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think instead of jumping into politics in 2 statewide races, it might be better to run for state rep. Just kind of get your feet wet. I mean, it takes a lot of money to run a statewide race.
It does. It takes a lot of money, and you know, she had some name recognition from running a statewide race previously, but certainly, I mean, it's not like she's had 100,000 followers on Facebook or anything like that. And I upset some people during the Senate race because she shared this. She made this video, this ad of like it was a Second Amendment one, but she did it with a pink gun and she was all like dolled up, and I appreciate that. I mean, I really do. I think every woman should carry a gun, but I don't have a pink gun because I want my gun to scare someone. And I know they all do the same thing, but there's something about a pink gun.
That doesn't bother me. I know a lot of...
It also not for a political ad.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, I've seen kids' guns that are pink and stuff. And when I say kids' guns, I'm talking about 22 that your mom or daddy takes you out to shoot. I don't know, man. She's gaining some attention. I don't know if it's the right attention. I mean, I saw the boxing ad.
Yeah, Eric. Eric's gonna hit play on that for us.
The governor's race in Georgia has 4 establishment politicians. And then there's Kandiss Taylor.
And I'm one of you. And God made me a fighter. You sold us out to China. You hijacked our elections. And then there's you. You didn't fight for your own seat that you won. What were you doing? Playing golf or trading stock? Oh, and the Democrat plant, who has been accused of sexual assault over and over. Now, I'm done with the good old boys. And it's going to get personal. Stacey, it's you and me. Let's let the people choose. And a fight that's not rigged.
Kandiss Taylor, the one we've been waiting for.
Which it's really something.
Yeah.
But
man.
But she also has this tour bus that has the big display of Jesus, guns, and babies, and I guess you brought this up, but it says in this article on the Gazette that it's reminiscent of the song "Lawyers, Guns, and Money."
Yeah, Warren Zevon, which oddly enough I was listening to today. I like Warren Zevon. A few of his songs entertain me, and "Lawyers, Guns, and Money" is one of them. It was also covered by Hank Williams Jr. Little music history for you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Some of the ads and stuff and some of the stuff it's hard to take seriously. And it's like I said, it's also hard when you jump straight into a statewide race. And I know that's me being a little bit of a pundit, and I'm not trying to be dismissive of it. And you're right, it takes It takes huevos to get into that and open yourself up to the scrutiny, and certainly open your family up to reading things that people write about you and put on the internet and all that stuff. It's not a fun experience. It can be very, very dirty. But
yes, and she's from Southeast Georgia, so like she's from Baxley, which is in Appling County. So it's one of those things where a lot of people, she has a lot of family, she has a lot of people in the network that webs out. And so like not loving her is offensive to some people, which is unfortunate because, you know, it's not about that. But it's like I said before, she's not doing herself any favors. Like the boxing ad, you know, she's taking this stance of, I'm the one you've been waiting for and I'm going to fight for you. And,
yeah, first of all, I'm a fighter. I don't care. I mean, I saw an ad that citizens will be safe in their cities when I'm governor. Oh, how? And this is not specific to Kandiss. This is specific. And this is all politicians. Is they come up with these great platitudes, but they have no plan. How? Well, I'm going to support. No. You stop getting to say I support when you step into that political arena. You need to have a plan. You say, this is what I would do day one. This is what I want with the first 100 days. If you're running to be the executive of a large state, mm-hmm. you need to have some specifics. I can't even talk tonight.
Well, and as you said, though, like her ideas, you know, they might be, I don't necessarily agree with some of her platform, but they might be well situated for the state house or the state senate. The state house or the state senate is Blake Tillery, so I think that she would have a difficult time defeating him since he's the appropriations chairman. But state house, you know, first of all, her state representative just stepped down to go serve on the Georgia DOT board, and so there was an open election, and she had the opportunity to, you know, be heard and get elected if she wanted to.
Well, but there's some stuff I don't understand about the Don Quixote candidates, and there are a few of them, and we know a few of them. The people that they're going to tilt at windmills, knowing that they don't have much chance.
Right.
Now, yes, you have the odd year like 2020, where a lot of people who didn't get in at qualifying didn't realize that the world was going to shut down and they could run a campaign on a shoestring budget. You know, you don't have to show up anywhere. Yeah.
Right.
But I certainly don't see that happening now, especially with the pushback on shutdowns and that kind of stuff. So I think it's a little bit of tilting at windmills, a little self-aggrandizing. I'm sure within her pocket of folks around her county know her, know who she is, and love her. And look, she seems perfectly nice to me. I mean, I've never met her, but she seems. I've talked to her on the phone. She seems very, very nice, and she seems very genuine. When you're going up against, she wants to use the boxing analogy. You keep going up against two heavyweights that have huge war chests that are accustomed to the arena.
Yes, and it's so awkward right now because she keeps talking about Trump but Trump has endorsed David Perdue, and not that like certainly doesn't matter to me because that's not how I gauge my support for a gubernatorial candidate, but like it's just odd that she's like touting all this Trump stuff when he's not backing her.
Not just not backing her, he doesn't live in Georgia. Trump has yet to say what he thinks Kemp should have done. Besides create a constitutional crisis. Same thing with Pence. Not that Pence is my favorite person in the entire world either, but what the hell was he supposed to do? Do I think Trump should have won? Absolutely. Do I think there was some funny business going on? Absolutely. Would I rather him be in office right now, especially with what's going on in the world between Afghanistan and Ukraine and all this? Absolutely. Yeah. Because there's an advantage in international politics to having a perceived madman at the switch. It's the same thing Reagan had with the cowboy image that he had. The Russians were afraid of him because they didn't know what he was going to do. But all that aside, it doesn't matter to me who Trump thinks should be my governor. That's for us. That's for us to decide. Trump can go vote for DeSantis because that's the governor in the state where he lives.
Yes.
So here
we are.
Last week in the Georgia legislature.
Oh, Alan Powell, State Rep Alan Powell I think he's from like Lake Hartwell. He's a Republican. He's filed a bill to expand the number of medical marijuana dispensaries for growing, cultivating, all that to make the low THC CBD cannabidiol oil. Because, we awarded 6 contracts or licenses. The state did. They did it all in secret. And 16 companies lost the bid. Now they're suing. And so they're going to expand the number of licenses and supposedly give the people who did not make the cut a license. Obviously that could change as they whittle down the bill and it goes through committee. But first thing I thought of when I read this was we talked about how many, with the minimum amount that you have to produce and the square footage and the insurance you have to carry and everything, and then the few people on the registry in Georgia for the conditions that are permitted, and maybe more people will sign up for the registry when you can actually purchase it in Georgia. But for me, I'm thinking there's going to be a massive amount of supply and not a whole lot of demand because we have a limited number of conditions and you can't sell it across state lines. And now we're going to give 22 companies a license to grow it?
Yeah.
Not that I'm against that, but it just seemed that just seems like it's going to create a big old problem.
Of course it is. Government's involved.
Yeah.
And they legalized medical marijuana, sort of.
Yeah. For a couple people with a couple problems when they're about to die. You're not even giving this to people. Most of the conditions are end of life. They're not even long-term patients.
Well, there are that with a lot of the seizures and things like that are ongoing.
Yes, I said but some of the long-term.
But that's not how you approve medicines. You don't tell the doctor what they can prescribe for what. That's not the role of government. The doctor is the one who went to medical school, and he can best find a treatment for his patients. So, this has been the slowest, clunkiest rollout of a available product that I think I've seen in a long, long, long time. They didn't even meet. The board didn't even meet for a year.
Yeah, well, it was longer than that. And on top of that, when it did, they would come on. When they did start meeting, they would come on the Zoom and say hello and then lock everybody out because it was all behind closed doors, which is one of the reasons that part of the bill Powell introduced will make it subject to the Open Records Act like anything they do. But the reason it is because it's not because they wanted to operate in the sunlight for the public. It's because lawmakers have asked questions and the executive director of the commission has said, well, per the law, I cannot release that. And so it's really not about the public. It's about lawmakers getting to get the access. And because they're part-time legislators, they can't do that without giving us a little something too.
Well, I'll take what we can get.
Yeah, but it's so pathetic. That is so pathetic. It never should have been behind closed doors, ever. And that's exactly what they're trying to do with the casinos and the horse betting and horse racing and sports betting and everything else. Like, it's all, they want to do it just like this. And yet at the same time, they're showcasing the problems.
Right. They want to go into the Vatican like a bunch of cardinals. And then when we see white smoke, we all gather around to find out who was selected.
Right.
So we have Powell also wants to regulate Georgia into the free market.
Yep. Electric vehicles, which this is such a hot button issue right now because of the production plant for electric vehicles and all the economic development incentives that we offered. Is it Rivian?
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how you pronounce it, if that was slaughtering it, but because I'm not an electric vehicle guru by any means. I'll be driving my gas guzzler V8 until the cows come home. But this is a bill to it cracks me up that they want to they literally said he wants to put in guidelines to protect the free market, to prevent people or companies like Georgia Power and EMCs from creating a monopoly on these electric vehicle charging stations around the state. So I guess Georgia's getting money from the federal government, like $135 million over 5 years, to put more charging stations around the state. And I guess we're also going to be applying for some federal grants. And there's 1,700 stations around the state right now, and 3% of them are owned by Georgia Power, and I guess that's a problem because they want to create a framework to allow the private sector to be involved and to protect consumers. And I think it's hilarious that they don't consider Georgia Power the private sector because of how convoluted everything is.
Right. They create the monopoly, and now they're going to cure it. Look, it doesn't matter who owns the charging station. Where are you going to get the power from? It has to come from Georgia Power. And most of the charging stations that I know of there are a couple that you pay for, get quick charges, but a lot of them are like at Tesla dealerships and outside Costco and, things to bring. The people who have EVs typically have deeper pockets, so you tend to find charging stations format and higher end retail. If you're going to be there for 30 minutes to an hour charging, you might as well go in and spend some money.
Well, yeah.
And there are services that the private market is already taking care of. There's a company that I'm not sure if the IPO is hit yet, but where they will change your battery. They keep essentially it's sort of like having a propane tank on your grill, where when that's running low, they come out, swap the batteries, and they take the battery with them and charge them up, and then you use your vehicle until it needs a charge again. And if you can't make it home, their vision for this company is, there'll be another place to go and swap out that battery and have a fresh battery, so you're not sitting there for an hour trying to trickle charge your battery. That it's closer to going to a gas station and topping off.
Yeah, I guess. But, they're talking about, I don't know how long it takes to charge, but they're talking about convenience stores and Waffle Houses, and then also incentivizing manufacturing pre-charged batteries. This is the dumbest, it's just,
Again, it's interjecting government where the private sector's already been handling stuff. Lawmakers recently sent a bill reaffirming ties to Israel to Kemp's desk, and he signed it.
Well, we knew he would, but
of course, I'm sure it was carried by his floor leaders or pushed by his floor leaders.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly, but the last version that we had was deemed unconstitutional, so they tweaked it a little bit and passed it, committee, Senate floor, House floor, passed last year, and then it got held up this year held up last year, and they finished the drill this year. But what's interesting is that a U.S. district judge halted almost the same version of a Texas bill and said, no, you can't do that, and that it needs further review. And I mean, it's going to get us sued, which, like, again, if you what it does is it says that the state is not allowed to do business with companies that are boycotting Israel. And if you recall about what we talked about on the show, was a Georgia Southern speaker who was supposed to talk at Georgia Southern, and in her contract it said this, and she wouldn't agree to it, and it was a First Amendment issue, and this, that, and the other. And I mean, the thing is like, I don't hear Israel saying, we're not going to work with you unless you do this.
Look, there is a plenty good reason why it was stuck in a drawer last year. It was not an election year. It's a useless platitude. And look, I'm a huge supporter of Israel. I hope they stay there for 1,000 years. And they one of the strongest militaries in the area. They don't need the people of Georgia to give them a thumbs up or worry about what companies are boycotting them, or for the state to spend more money on a company because they're not boycotting Israel. It's just it's a solution looking for a problem. And look, I agree with Kemp in that, it's important to stand behind our friends and stand with Israel, but that's not, international relations is not the role of the state.
I'll tell that to them, because they said that because we have $800 million trade relationship and 90 Israeli companies here in Georgia, and our state economic development department is planning a trade mission there next year.
And glad to have every one of those companies in our state. And I'm glad we have those companies in our state not because of a bill that says we support Israel. It's because we are a business-friendly state. We have rail. We have one of the busiest airports, if not still the busiest airport. We have the Savannah ports. We have a lot of infrastructure that is favorable to international companies doing business here. So yeah, that's what attracts businesses, not whether the governor signs a bill saying, we support Israel, whatever. I mean, it's not the role of individual states to be doing that. And the fact that we know we're going to get sued, this is just like we talked about a bill last week that we know we're going to get sued. Why the hell are we spending the money on that?
Yeah, it costs money. And what's interesting is, like, they passed a bill last week as well to I don't know if it's gone. Well, actually, it has gone to Governor Kemp's desk, because it passed the Senate, then it passed the House, and they made a motion to immediately transmit it to move forward. But basically what it does is it requires the Attorney General to respond and be present and party to lawsuits when a Georgia law is deemed unconstitutional, depending on where the injunction is coming from, like a citizen, another agency, whatever. And I just think it's funny that, like, the same week that we passed we do this so often knowing, and don't get me wrong, I think the federal government overreaches and I think there's a time and a place to intercede and make a statement, but we do it a lot.
Yeah, especially when
we don't always win.
When you have other cases that are
exactly
almost rubber stamp same. Let Texas go ahead and hammer this one out. Let's just hang back and let's see what happens with them.
And the other thing too is, like, with Texas, you can file a friend of the court brief and support them, and then that, you don't have to be the one forking out, because it costs money.
Right. We don't have to take all comers. Pick your battles. If with the heartbeat bill, Alabama put their own version in. You know what? Let Alabama pay to hammer that out in court, and then we can come back in with it. Same thing with Texas and the Israel bill. Let Texas handle that one. Let's see where the court comes back on the 10th Amendment on that. Let them spend their taxpayers' funds on it, and then if the court clears it, then we can talk about it. So we have the Georgia Senate to consider renewal of rural tax credit despite slow returns on investment.
Yeah, I know we're running low on time, but this just is it's just asinine. So they're pushing forward another round of funding for the rural tax credit, even though the studies on the effectiveness and the return show that it will be 7 decades before our state will see a return on it. And that's 7 decades of it being maxed out and all of the things coming true. And that's pretending that the rest of the economy isn't, imploding because of inflation and possibly Ukraine. And but 33 businesses so far since it took effect in it took effect in 2017, so the first tax year would be 18. So 33 businesses, 38 investments for $101 million that's what, there's no return. We're just forking out money. And in 70 years, we might see a refund or a return on it. And the House approved it, I think, last Tuesday in a vote of 153 to 11. So 11 people were like, I think possibly that 70 years is just too long.
Yep, and they'll be hammered.
Oh, yeah, it was the usual. Well, not the usual because 11 is a lot, but it was Tim Barr, Charlize Byrd, David Clark, Hutchinson, I think, Shelley Hutchinson. She's a Democrat, so it's interesting that
she's not in for throwing money away.
Yeah, Sherry Gilligan, Emery Donahue, Philip Singleton, McLeod. There's 2 Mitchells, so let me look at which Mitchell, and then what's his name? Wilson. Gosh, I can't remember his name to save my life right now. Rebecca Mitchell, she's also a Democrat. Matthew Wilson, and then Marvin Lim. So I guess it was 5 Democrats, 6. I don't know math, but I think it was 6 Republicans. That's it. Out of 180.
To stand up and say there's no return on investment. Let's move on from this plan and look at something else. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they want to get reelected.
70 years. 7, I would be like, okay, I'm against it because I'm against this kind of stuff. But 7, whatever. 70, you won't even be here.
Right. Well,
anyway.
that's the other thing is they're not worried about the rampant inflation. They're not worried about that because they won't be here. But they get to go back because most of these folks most of these districts include rural areas.
Yeah, but it really makes me mad that you want to pay people to come here when I moved here for free. Where's my money?
You saved money moving down there to get out of Alpharetta.
Oh, you want to go into that? That's a whole other show. We'll talk about that.
You have a closing thought? Your complaint?
Yeah, I'll be brief. Yeah, I'm a little miffed with Kemp. So last weekend, I put this article out because a sheriff from Butts County, Gary Long, put out this awesome Facebook post. The subject matter wasn't awesome, but I was really impressed with him for blistering the Department of Corrections because this convicted killer, he killed a sheriff's deputy in 1999, has been on Facebook, has been harassing the family of the man who was killed on Facebook. This guy's been in prison since 0203 or something, but different facilities. He was recently, he's serving life without parole. He'll never get out. They just moved him to a lower level facility and he's on social media all the time. And they contacted him and the warden was like, yeah, we'll take his phone, we'll do a shakedown and just let me know if you see anything else. And so the sheriff was basically blistering, saying like this never should have happened. He should be in a high security facility because he fled before he went to Canada. He had to be extradited, all this stuff. But that he's also harassing the family, and you're not supposed to have phones in prison. And the warden's like, yeah, let me know if you see anything else. Like, terrible. And so the sheriff puts out this post and, tells everybody to call Kemp and the Department of Corrections. Well, obviously it's an election year and Kemp doesn't want to look bad. So he takes action. They he contacts Timothy Ward, commissioner of GDC, all this. They take action, further move the guy, I think, to a more secure facility and also shake down his room again. Well, they should shake it down every other day if he's got a problem with phones and stuff. That's coming in somehow. But, hello, Kemp. We've got murders for hire coming out of our area down here, and we can't get any response from anybody. But a sheriff talks about on Facebook, and you do something on the weekend? It's not cool.
Optics.
Yeah.
My only closing thought is, I told you, I am a tenth of a mile outside of a new proposed city that will most likely get approved, the city of Lost Mountain. I don't have a dog in that fight. I'm just inside Paulding County, which, I preferred being Paulding to Cobb. But it's funny because all the posts about this new city is that it'll be tax neutral. You won't have any increased taxes. The services will be great. And it's not going to cost you anything. Yeah. Uh-huh. Huh.
A tenth of a mile, you better know it. You're going to be fighting against annexation at some point.
They'd have to jump counties.
They do it down here.
It's also the city that they're proposing is 70,000 people. It's huge.
And they're going to put it on a ballot and people are going to be like, yeah, tax me harder.
Tax me harder, Daddy.
I hate people.
So, on that cheery note, I want to thank you very much for listening. Big thanks to Eric Cumby, our editor, to Jessica Salaji, my partner, and I am Dave Roberts. Have a great week.
Catch me howling at the moon.